Hello everybody and welcome back to the Porsche Club America as the fourth tier of racing, the challenge class, gets ready to go here from Willow Springs. In 2 weeks time we'll know the name of our champion for this season. 200 points still available for us in this season and roughly 11 or 12 drivers with a mathematical chance of still taking it home from here. It's myself, Ian O'Leary, and Ron Mounds along with me this time around. It's good to be alongside you, Ron, for this round of the championship here at Willow Springs. Looking forward to this Porsche Club America racing coming to California, and I'm looking forward to seeing what racing we're going to get round here.
And looking forward to running an absolutely fantastic track, man. Willow Springs, a wonderful race circuit in the world of not just Californian motorsports, but global motorsports as well. Opened all the way back in 1953, and this 2.5-mile, 9-turn road course is virtually unchanged ever since the track first opened. It is a wonderful ride in the world of racing, and these drivers, I think, are going to have a heck of a lot of fun all throughout tonight's racing.
And hopefully we are as well. You can certainly tell that it's not really changed very much since its inception as well. It is an old school racetrack that we're very much looking forward to running around here tonight. Worth reminding you and thanking, of course, Charlie Mobile for sponsoring the series and the Series 12 Clean Driver Award. Charlie Mobile is providing the winner with an Apple iPhone 16 and a year of self-service. So thank you to Charlie Mobile for sponsoring the Porsche Club America again this season. And indeed, this is what we're currently standing in the clean driver standings. As you can see, not many of the drivers we'll be seeing tonight will be fighting for the overall. Mark Foley last night was in the sport class, and he's still leading just ahead of Matthew Jokel. In the club standings, it's David Fernandez and Kevin Jokel who are right up there, with Bryce Rodriguez pretty much up there as well. But what you'll notice is that those drivers mostly are fighting for championships. It does go hand in hand. If you're up there in the clean driver standings, you'll be up there in the normal point standings as well. Unfortunately though, as I say, not many of challenge class drivers up there really. Aaron Sunday is leading the overall points here though in this class, ahead of Will Wolf. Was that 25 points between those two at the moment? Just another further point back is Ola Murphy, with Brian Stern in fourth place. Now, none of those drivers can actually take the lead off Aaron Sunday today, but they could make it close going into Monza in 2 weeks' time. Anthony Vincenzo is quite a long way behind in fifth place, but does have Kevin Hammond quite close behind. Randall Ayers is seventh, ahead of Ed Trippett, with Adam Holland and Jeremy Main rounding out the top 10 in the challenge class standings. And there is a look at our courses. I always think this looks a bit deceptive, to be honest, Ron. It looks pretty simple actually when you look at the track map like this, but actually when you go driving around Willow Springs, it is a lot more difficult than that.
I think that's a perfect way to put it there, man. This track, you look at it and it's like, oh yeah, it looks fairly simple. Looks like a cut and dry racetrack, not a whole lot of challenge thrown in, but looks can be absolutely deceiving, and that's really the case here with Willow Springs. You look at turn 1, for instance, that seems like a corner where you probably just turn it in, flat out, no big deal, go through that corner like it's just any other corner around the racetrack. But heading through a corner like that, especially with that runoff area, dead grass on the outside, it is beckoning for these racers, especially at the beginning of the 1 hour race we have coming up. That's going to be a real trouble spot, especially at the beginning of the race. The racetrack packed in with a whole lot. Challenge turn 2 troublesome as well. Whole lots of challenging sections around this racetrack. May only be 9 corners in all, but this track just has so much challenge, so much flair, and so much uniqueness packed into it.
Good afternoon, by the way, and good evening, I should say, to everyone who's watching along. Lots of support coming in for Aaron Sunday. He was a little bit further away in practice than what you'd expect to see, actually. Hopefully for him, he can pick it up a little bit in qualifying, which we are now in. Willie Wolf is currently at the top of the standings, with Michael Courtney, who is by far and away the fastest driver in practice, in second place. Just 73 thousandths between them. It is a relatively short circuit, actually, even in these Porsche Cup cars. So we are going to get some close qualifying times. In fact, all 3 of the series that have gone before this one were pretty close in qualifying. There's no reason to expect why this would be any different. But we always talk about how important qualifying could be round here. I always say I've been pretty impressed this week by how Willow Springs has been racing. I think it's been very good. However, it is still important to get a good qualifying at this circuit.
I lastly, one driver getting off to a pretty good start in this qualifying session is Randall Ayers. He won the last race of the season at Bathurst not terribly long ago. So looking to try and end this season with a little bit of flair and a lot of momentum on his shoulders. The driver of the 67 car who are following right now, heading through that, I believe, is turn number 3, another challenging bend around this racetrack. Randall Ayers looking to try and prove something, slot in P2 at the moment, not terribly far off the pole. So this may be a driver we have to keep our eyes on, Ewan.
Absolutely. Only one top 5 prior to that win, by the way, so it did come out of the blue a little bit if you were looking at the trend of results, but clearly he's been able to pick up some momentum from that, and he's going well so far. He is still behind Britt Danley, though, in the standings. Stephen Danley at the top of the standings by 38 thousandths of a second right now, although Randall Ayers is going relatively quickly, right on board here through the final corner, and just missing the apex, I'm afraid, and running wide as well. That's not ideal. That's his last lap time, by the way, just being completed right now. I'd be surprised if that wasn't an off-track. And indeed, Ayers is braking before the line anyway. We'll see if that counted, because it was a 16-0, but I don't think it did. Michael Courtney's did, though. He's in the 115s for the first time. Brian Stern goes over the line here. He can't quite get in the 15s, but he does improve on his previous best, and he goes up to 3rd place. Jeremy Main stays 5th. What about Danley? He's gone back to the pit lane. So all of the top 5 are done for the session. Their 3 laps in these 10 minutes are completed. It looks like Michael Courtney might well just have the edge over the field here.
Yeah, and that's a pretty sizable cushion as well, with lap times as short as they are in these Porsche Cup cars. That 1.5 tenth gap between himself and Britt Danley, that's pretty substantial there. So looking, maybe that gap is going to hold between now and the end of the session. The driver we're keeping our eyes on right now, that's Will Wolf in the number 16 car, bringing his qualifying session to a close with a run up to second. So right as I was saying that 1.5 tenth of a second gap between Courtney and Danley was big, Will Wolf nearly grabbing the pole just out of the blink of our eyes.
And that was very important indeed. He is one of those drivers chasing for the championship here this afternoon. Olin Murphy is as well. He's completed his session, though, even if he is continuing to press on at the moment. Aaron Sunday hasn't yet completed his session as far as I can see. He's still on lap 3, so we'll see if he can improve. But at the moment, he is quite a long way down in 7th place. If we take into account the fact that his lowest finish so far was 5th at Summit Point, that is quite a good lowest score, to be honest. And so that does give him quite a lot of points to fall back on, and hence why I mentioned at the top of the show he cannot lose the championship lead tonight, but he certainly can put himself under a lot of pressure going into Monza. And there you go, 7th place at best, confirmed for him. Not his best qualifying by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising there, considering that Aaron Sunday is a driver based out of the Los Angeles region. So basically his hometown track, since Willow Springs is a SoCal racetrack and a SoCal staple as well in the world of American motorsports. So a little bit surprising to see this, not lack of pace. I mean, he still finds himself in 8th. That's a pretty good qualifying result as is, but probably not what he had in mind. He hasn't scored a victory this season since Donington Park for, I believe, round 3. So it hasn't been the biggest turn of pace for Aaron Sunday, but hey, I mean, as it's said so often in the world of racing, to finish first you have to finish. That goes for races and that goes for championships as well. So Aaron Sunday looking to try and play the consistent game. An 8th place result in this qualifying session may not be what he had in mind, not going for all-out glory on the pole, but an 8th place starting spot, that still got to put him in a pretty good spot at the start of this race.
Absolutely it is, yeah. So he'll be, I guess, content slightly with that, but not delighted. A couple of drivers haven't set times yet. We've got 23 on the board at the moment, but Jim Garamani and Antonio Da Silva have not set times yet. Garamani is currently setting a time, although not going particularly quickly at the moment. I'm seeing him way down on his previous best, and indeed his previous best didn't count in the first place, so not ideal. It does seem, though, that he is doing a 3rd lap, but doesn't seem to me to be on the pace quite in terms of pushing super hard. Don't really know what he's doing, but anyway, he's completing his session at the moment with just over a minute remaining. As far as the rest of them go, well, we're pretty much done with the major times here. It's confirmed pretty much that Michael Courtney is going to take the pole position here at Willow Springs. Currently 15th going into the race in the point standings. He's 15th. Best result so far of 4th. That came back at Summit Point, round number 4 of this series, so he's nowhere near the top end of the standings by any means. Before we get to the end of this qualifying session, a quick thank you to Player Vista Insurance Services. At Player Vista Insurance Services, they're more than just an insurance firm. They're a full-service employee benefits consulting partner, delivering innovative solutions in wellness, compliance and technology. With 25 years of trusted experience and a legacy spanning everything from nursing to hospital administration, they're dedicated to designing benefits that are as unique as your business. Contact them today to build a brighter, healthier future. And a big thanks to them for getting on board for the Porsche Club America season here at season 12 towards the end of 2024. Just a word, by the way, on next week, because we'll be back again with championship finale week from the opening couple of series. That'll be on Wednesday and Thursday night. Then we'll be back in 2 weeks with the first of all conclusion of this series on the Thursday night, but also of the sport class that will be taking place in 1 week on Wednesday's time. So we look forward to finals races coming up in the near future. As you can see, qualifying is over and warm-up now begins. Everybody putting a full load of fuel in again and getting themselves ready for the race, and this pretty important start, because as we've seen in the previous races around this circuit, it is very quick for these drivers to get single file and for it to get very difficult to overtake. This is why this pole lap from Michael Courtney was a very important one, and we're going to run aboard with him now and sort of let him take us through this Willow Springs racetrack. And that is going to be the pole lap for Michael Courtney. A very impressive lap, Ron. I mean, that goes for any pole lap, to be honest. But it just gives us a real flavour of what this circuit's really like to go round.
Yeah, that was a pretty good sample as to all the wonderfulness around Willow Springs. It's a track that I really like. Even in the early days of me driving it back on, I believe, the original Project Cars game, it's just a track that's always stuck out to me. I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit biased being the American in this broadcast, but I just absolutely love this racetrack. It's got all that flair, as we saw with that qualifying lap. You're on the ragged edge throughout a vast majority of this racetrack with those runoff areas, which, as you can see, there's like cactuses growing out of it. So hey, I mean, those iRacing punctures, I am hearing a little bit of discussion about. That may be something we have to keep our eyes on in future seasons, but for the time being, that runoff area is still not going to be a fun ride for any of these drivers at all. Don't want to get any sort of dust on your tires either, even though we have 1 hour of racing action to look forward to. Don't want to have any sort of mistakes, and especially with some of the bumps that we have on the runoff area surrounding this racetrack. You have one small little dip into the grass, dip into the dirt, then you're going to find yourself on board with a wild ride, having no control of your race car and just auguring straight into one of your competitors. So especially at the beginning of this race, going to be real treacherous trying to find the right line, especially through turns 1, 2, and 3. I'm not sure, honestly, what's going to be the hardest corner for these drivers on lap 1. Is it going to be turn 1, which feels like it can carry a lot more speed into it than you really can? Is it going to be turn 2, which feels like it carries on for 1,000 years? Or is it going to be turn 3, where some drivers may be a little bit opportunistic, maybe a little bit too overly opportunistic, going for a move into there at the very beginning of the race? I really cannot pin the tail on the donkey as to whether or not one corner is going to be more challenging than the other. I feel like the first 9, that whole first lap, is going to be so vital for these racers.
I thought you meant the first 9 on the racetrack. because there is only 9. But yeah, I mean that too. To be fair. So there we go. Just less than a minute to go in warm-up. So while we're doing that, let's have a look at the grid that we'll be starting with for this race. It's Michael Courtney on pole with what was the only 1 minute 15 at the time, but Will Wolf joined him on that front row to get up there, very importantly, as far as this championship goes. Joshua Jefferson is third, with still within a tenth of pole, with Britt Danley alongside. It's Brian Stern and Randall Ayers sharing row 3. That all within 2 tenths, by the way, of pole. Jeremy Main was in 7th place there, with Aaron Sunday, points leader in 8th. Still ahead, though, of Olin Murphy, who is 9th, of course, 3rd in points going into today. Ed Trippett rounds out the top 10 over a second back, with Robert Gaius and Johan Nye rounding out row 6. Anthony DiVincenzo is in 13th, ahead of Alan Hales, with Jim Garamani setting that very late lap time to go 15th, ahead of Ryan McGee. It's Jeffrey Block and Aubrey Ayer now on row 9, ahead of Jack Stevenson and Dave Douglas. Manuel Gonçalves and Lisa Eskridge share row 11, ahead of Adam Holland and Andy McCune. Outside of that, it's Antonio da Silva, who didn't set a time, but we hope will take to the start of this race. We'll see, though. Not entirely sure for the moment. If we do see him on the grid, then it will be 25. Those are the track conditions. 20 degrees Celsius, because it is quite early in the morning, and it is early in December, even though it's LA. It is susceptible to cold temperatures. For a translation, by the way, for those of you who don't work in Celsius, it's about 70 degrees, I think, in Fahrenheit. Land.
Thank you.
So there you go. Not the warmest in the world, but probably the best for around here. What's going to be the big thing for surviving here, Ron, as we get towards the last corner and the start of this race?
I feel like it's a word that's used a whole lot when it comes to races, especially ones that are a bit longer, but patience is going to be so vital for these racers. You don't want to get caught up in the red mist. You don't want to get caught up in the drama and the chaos that may happen at the very beginning of this race. You need to keep a calm, cool, and collected head on your shoulders. Otherwise, you're going to find yourself in a world of trouble. You don't want to get bit by a snake around this racetrack, so it's going to be real tough for these drivers to try and play the patient game.
Through the final corner, and they've not got long now to think about how they're going to navigate turn 1. Generally, this week and last week, it's been okay for getting through the opening lap, but let's see whether that continues tonight as the Porsche Club of America Challenge class gets underway for event number 6 here from Willow Springs. Michael Courtney in control of the field in the 12 on the left-hand side of the road, right-hand side of our picture, waiting a long time for the green flag, not deciding to go as soon as the pace car pulls in. Instead, using up almost all of the front straight, now going finally and catching Will Wolf off guard just a little bit. Joshua Jefferson gets down the inside of Wolf in towards turn number 1, but will he be brave enough to break late? Doesn't look like it. Will Wolf will hold on to second, ahead of Jefferson, who will be third for now, just in behind him. It's Danley and then Brian Stern, who's in 5th place ahead of Randall Ayers. The top position staying very much as they are through the opening couple of corners, but now we get the side-by-side and indeed the move from Randall Ayers, who's looking to move up to 4th, and off in the background there, Aaron Sunday, that looked like going a little bit wide through turn number 2 on this opening lap.
Yeah, a wild off-track excursion for him coming at turn number 2. Very lucky to keep that car going in a straight line and add the barrier or one of his competitors. Really tough break for that driver. That I believe may actually have been Olin Murphy. That I believe may have been the driver that went off the circuit not terribly long ago. Either way, a very wild ride to kick this race off, but most of the drivers up towards the front negotiating the first 2/3 of this first lap clean.
You are right, by the way. It was Olin Murphy. Apologies, not Aaron Sunday. He's still going well in 8th place, just ahead or behind, I should say, of Brian Stern through the final corner for the opening time in this race. Such a difficult corner, as I'm sure we'll talk about a lot throughout this race. Trying to clip that last apex, but Brian Stern's done it very well indeed. Oh, look at that. He almost crashed straight into the back of Jeremy Main there. He got such a good run. He pulls to the right-hand side, though. He'll be on the outside line for turn number 1, using that camber that'll just help him on that outside line. He breaks deep enough as well into the corner to do it. That's a very nice move around the outside of turn 1.
That was a beautiful battle. The last late breakers heading off into the first corner, but that was a monumental run from Brian Stern. Well done to try and time that run, going on to the start-finish straight away and making it seem like Jeremy Main's 555 car was powered with milk, and yet again side-by-side as Aaron Sunday trying to get moved on, making side-to-side contact, and it goes around.
Oh, and he's been hit. Oh, the series leader in big trouble at Willow Springs here. Spins from 8th place and now he's all the way back in the pack. He's side by side up through turn 4 as well. That's Jack Stevenson on the outside line who's going to get through. Aaron Sunday's down to 16th here. He can maybe get 15th back if he goes around the outside here, and he's done quite a good job of it. And he does get 15th back again. But for a driver whose worst result of the season is 5th place so far, this is a comparative disaster.
Yeah, right as I mentioned a matter of 10 minutes ago, Ewan, about the fact that he was maybe going to try and play the consistency game heading into this race. It's an absolute disaster for him. We're going to take a look at a replay to see this side-by-side action heading off into turn number 3. Trying to get a move done was Sunday, clipping that inside curve and just auguring straight into the side of the 555 car, rolling a little bit, not holding the brakes as there's a crash in the live action coming out of turn 1.
What's going on here? Will Wolf has been involved with Joshua Jefferson, who's still in the middle of the road, and now he gets out of it, thankfully, and everybody gains a place as Jefferson gets back going again. Wolf back on the road, but pretty gingerly. He's looking to get back up to speed again. We'll have a replay of that, of course, in the next few moments as well. And here we go, in towards turn 1. It was Wolf down the inside of Jefferson, trying to hang on to second place. I don't think he quite clipped.
Oh,
to be honest, and there's the contact. It was Danley as well who came through and smacked into Jefferson. There may well be some damage for those two now as well.
that was a very bizarre looking incident. I'm not sure if you saw it the same way that I did, you and there. It just looked like one of those cars that looked like both of them were tied together with fishing hooks. That looked very strange. That random bumper cars heading at turn number 1. Lots of cars getting involved. So we see Jack Stevenson going off the track in the 116 car. That's heading through the middle sector. That, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, is a spin coming through 5 and 6. So that's another incident in the early stages of this race. Just ticking over to 4 minutes on the clock now as we take a look at this simple spin. Looks like it was all by its lonesome. No contact, no weird odd curve whack or anything like that. Just a simple spin and a loss of control, as we may see some side-by-side fighting here involving DiVincenzo trying to get a move done on the 809 car. They're side-by-side hang off through turn number 1. They finally single file out heading through 2, and that was a pretty slick move from Anthony DiVincenzo in the 420 car to move his way up to 8. That was pretty slick.
That was pretty good from number 420. No irony involved, I'm sure. Look at the lead, by the way, that Michael Courtney's got. 4.5 seconds ahead of Britt Danley. That is pretty impressive so early on in the race. I know there's been a lot going on, but even so. Meanwhile, Johan Knight trying to hold back Will Wolf, who's back on the road and back up to speed by the looks of things. Wolf now up to 10th. So just to give you the lowdown, by the way, on where the main championship contenders are, I think there's 3 in realistic contention with Brian Stern sort of lurking. He's doing pretty well. He's 3rd. Olin Murphy didn't qualify that well, and he's still not doing brilliantly, but he is 6th place, so he's, that's still okay. And he is currently 3rd in the points. Will Wolf has just had that spin from 2nd in the points. He's now 10th. Aaron Sunday's outside the top 10, and he's just gone past Johan now. We've just seen him there in the white and the light blue. There he is indeed in real life as well on the bottom right of your screen, up to 11. He's on the road to recovery. However, it's not a good start for the series leader at all.
Yeah, Sunday, though, he's still on the up and up, running at 11th, as you mentioned a couple of moments ago, and anything can happen between now and that checkered flag. 54 minutes left, 44 plus a 10 left in this race for these drivers to try and get any sort of moves done. So it's not game, set, match for the time being for Aaron Sunday. Certainly doesn't want to have a very similar incident like what he had heading off into turn number 3 not terribly long ago. As you can see that side-by-side fighting involving Will Wolf, as that may have actually been a spin for him. He's gone off the track. So right as I was mentioning him trying to get a move done, he goes off the track yet again, this time heading through 3.
Olin Murphy down to 16th, and that is terrible news for him. By the way, Murphy and Wolf both need to be well inside the top 5 here to benefit from Sunday being so far down. Effectively, at worst today, Sunday is going to add to his score a 5th place finish because of the way that drop rounds work. I know it's quite complicated, but that's the way it works. This is how it happened, by the way, for Murphy. And one of the problems with Willow Springs, indeed, you can find yourself on the bank on the right-hand side very easily indeed. Getting off of it is quite an ordeal. So there you go. He had to be very careful. Will Wolf, meanwhile, gets past Anthony DiVincenzo for 8th place, and there you go, he's trying to get through on Ed Trippett as well. What a run out the final corner that was for Will Wolf. He's now up to 6th place.
Wolf having a fantastic drive thus far, making hay while the sun is shining. I gotta say, Ewan, this is a fantastic time for him to kick on the Hyperjets and try and get some moves done. His 6th place result may not seem too outstanding on paper, but considering his main championship rival, Aaron Sunday, is currently slotted in 10th, that would be a big points haul for the driver entering this race P2 in the championship. So Will Wolf at this point in time, despite the fact he's running outside the top 5, as it stands currently, he'd be coming out of this race smelling like a bed of roses, as that's Britt Danley going off the track in the 86 car. That's coming out of turn number 5.
And that's going to be a position for Wolf and Sunday here. They'll both go around the outside and get through. What I've got to say, by the way, with all the off-track moments, very respectful rejoins for everybody so far. They're costing themselves quite a bit of time doing so, but that's much better than just driving onto the circuit brazenly in the way that some professionals even do, to be honest, and cause a load of trouble. So hats off to everyone who's been able to do that so far. Out of the final corner in this battle for 5th place that Will Wolf is rapidly getting away from. This is why it's for 5th now, not for 6th. Britt Danley there with a solo spin on the way towards turn 5, which has collected a couple of victims already. Here goes Aaron Sunday into turn 1. He goes through on Robert Gallis, and there you go, 8th place now for Sunday.
Yeah, look at these drivers still slipping and sliding around the racetrack. The track conditions not too bad, as we saw with the weather report earlier on. Pretty good in terms of the track temperature, so these drivers still struggling for grip, as we may see a side-by-side fight develop here involving Anthony DiVincenzo and Ed Trippett, who are falling right down the 444 car. Ewan, I feel like you're probably more qualified to talk about these Porsche Cup cars than I am, but from everything I've seen thus far in this race, it looks like the drivers up and down the field dealing with some difficulties trying to keep these race cars on the road. It's like they're handling like a bunch of declawed cats trying to climb up an igloo or something.
It is a difficult car, but it is still an improved one compared to the previous versions of the Porsche Cup car. And if anything, I think this car's a bit too fast, to be honest with you. Especially when you compare it to GT3s, almost as fast down the straight. So we're having a look, by the way, there at DiVincenzo, I think that was, in 6th place. Good to see, by the way, a few more driver cameras. We get to see inside the setup of some of these drivers, which is always fun in these broadcasts. Here comes Aaron Sunday, and there he is on the bottom right as well, having a look at Ed Trippett down the inside there, but can't quite do it in towards turn number 1. But he's certainly in the mirrors. You can see that the body language of Trippett just changing as he is seeing this in his mirrors. Aaron Sunday just moving around a bit.
Yeah, you can see him maybe getting a little bit antsy at this point in time. He still has some time in his back pocket, but at the same time, in a series like this, time is of the essence. I've already said the saying, you gotta make hay while the sun is shining a lot throughout this broadcast, but it really rings true with some of the aggressiveness that we've seen from these racers, trying to get some moves done very early on into this race. Sunday's still looking to be on the up and up, as much as it's probably not ideal for him to be in the spot that he's in right now. This is just about where he started, so pretty good recovery drive thus far for Aaron Sunday. It's been a wacky and wild race for him thus far. Made up some spots, then got involved in a little bit of drama. He's now back up into 8th, and I feel like the positions that he may be able to gain between now and the checkered flag, I would say the sky's the limit, but P1's got to be the limit for him.
Brian Stern's just gone off through the final corner, by the way, and he might have just been... Oh, no, it's not him kicking all that smoke, but he's certainly been off. That's one of the top 4 in the championship who was so far not having any troubles, but now he has them. And Aaron Sunday is the one who's dropped off in the background. I was just thinking about that damage. When is he going to deal with it? Now is the time. Just less than 50 minutes remaining. He's coming in to deal with the damage. Now, everybody will have to make a stop, of course, but it's at what stage do you make it? He's shaking his head. He's not pleased with the way this race has gone so far. In fact, he's driving through the pit lane. Oh, goodness me, Aaron Sunday doesn't seem to be repairing any damage. He's taking a drive-through penalty already, only 11 minutes into this race.
Oh, that is going to sting for Aaron Sunday. I'm not sure why in the world he'd be able to pick up a drive-through penalty thus far in this race. I believe he'd have to hit 25 incident points to be able to pick up a drive-through penalty. So that's pretty severe to have that happen very early on into the race. Trust me when I say that these drivers have been breaking the elbows out, but again, 25 incident points, that's a pretty big amount to haul in only about 12 minutes of racing action here, Ewan. So not sure sure why in the world that was the case. May have been a penalty actually issued by race controls. We're going to take a look at a replay of a spin involving Britt Danley. We saw him rejoin the racetrack not terribly long ago in that 86 car. He's had a really tough turn of things as of late, but getting back to that penalty involving Sunday, that's going to sting. He's now down to 17th. I think that may have been some commentators jinxing for me as well, right as I was saying that he was putting on a good recovery.
Apologies, yeah, I should have picked up on that earlier. It was indeed a race control issued penalty for Aaron Sunday for contact, so he drops down to 17th. We'll keep an eye on him throughout the remainder of this race, but this is a bad drop of points for him, I'm afraid. It would mean that anyone within 50 points effectively of the championship lead would be in with a chance of winning the title. Even the slightly troubled drivers so far of where have they gone? Ola Murphy is down at the back after a pretty long pit stop, and also where has Will Wolf gone? Oh, he's 5th place now. He's moving up, that's why. And so that would still be decent for him. He'd still be, what, 25 points behind going into the last race. So it would be very possible for him to jump over Aaron Sunday at Monza, but we'll have to see on that front. Of course, we've got to expect as well, Aaron Sunday's going to make some progress from here to the finish, because he was making progress before that penalty. Don't see anything to suggest that he'll stop making progress now, even though he is a bit further back in the field.
I think he's going to be a man on a mission as well, Ian. I think he is going to be fighting tooth and nail for every single position he can gain, as we see a simple little spin there, a big spin for the number 35 of Aubrey Oyer there. I believe that was the correct pronunciation. I apologize in advance, Aubrey, if I absolutely butchered that, but that was a simple spin heading through the mid-sector of the lap. That, I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, was coming out of turn number 5, which has caught out many racers thus far in this race, Aubrey being the latest one.
That was 2 separate replays of 2 separate spins for the same driver there. Yeah, it was. So that was not ideal at all. And he's down to 24th now, already a lap down. Unlike what we saw in the sport class last night, we've got a very spread out field where already lap traffic's playing a role. Ola Murphy, Jim Garamani and Aubrey Oyer are all off the lead lap already. Alan McCune is only 10 seconds away from being put a lap down, although Joshua Jefferson's probably closer now. He's gone into the pit lane and will be a lap down very shortly. In fact, he looks like he's towed back to pit lane, so that might look like a further problem for Jefferson, but either way, it's been a very chaotic start indeed, but a very good start, I've got to say, for Michael Courtney, who we've not mentioned so far. 9 seconds in the lead, quarter of an hour gone.
Oh, he is just entirely checked out at this point in the number 12 car. Won't be too shocked if he takes a quick little trip to San Diego at this rate, because he has been blisteringly quick thus far. We may see a move here in the not too distant future between Trippett and Galis. It looks like they're going to stay line astern in 7th and 8th at the moment. But getting back to the subject and talking about Courtney, that is a pretty substantial lead to build up thus far in this race. Only 15 minutes on, only a quarter of the way through this race, Courtney already entirely checked out.
Absolutely. Seeing some interesting discussion coming in, by the way, from Rachel Sunday, who I presume has talked to Aaron Sunday in the last week or so, saying that effectively getting the gist that Aaron not particularly comfortable with this car around this circuit because it's not really built for it. And it is a bit unusual. This circuit is a bit unusual, to be honest, and these cars going around here is a bit unusual as well. As a neutral and as a commentator, that's exactly why I'm really enjoying it, to be honest, because it makes everyone a bit uncomfortable and makes them do a circuit that they wouldn't otherwise do. But I can certainly see why some of the drivers have not been particularly enjoying driving around here in the last week or so, and struggling now in the race as well. Worth mentioning, just 15 minutes in, and reminding you, of course, that this series is sponsored by Player Vista Insurance Services. At Player Vista Insurance Services, they're more than just an insurance firm. They're a full-service employee benefits consulting partner, delivering innovative solutions in wellness, compliance and technology. With 25 years of trusted experience and a legacy spanning everything from nursing to hospital administration, they're dedicated to designing benefits that are as unique as your business. Contact them today to build a brighter, healthier future. Just less than 44 minutes to go here at Willow Springs in the Porsche Club America Challenge class. Very much welcome along to RaceSpotTV as we follow Aaron Sunday, the series leader, just in behind Lisa Eskridge for 16th place on his road to recovery since that drive-through penalty.
Yeah, Aaron Sunday certainly going to be enjoying the presence of another competitor, because once he clears Lisa Eskridge, when or if he does, that would be pretty much the last car he sees for a while, because Britt Danley running in 15th is about 6 seconds farther up the road. So it's a pretty significant gap that Aaron Sunday has to try and usurp if he wants to make up some more spots. But again, anything can happen between now and the checkered flag. I've already seen a lot of drama thus far in this race, but we may see a battle develop here between the number 75 of Lisa Eskridge, who we're running on board with right now. Aaron Sunday going to try and size up a run on her coming out turn number 6. They're going to be flat out here dealing with the elevation change side by side now, heading through wings leg of turn number 7. Sunday trying to wield on the inside line, about to head their way off through turn number 8 and 9 for the last time on this lap. Of these drivers not close enough yet. Sunday not able to get the move done for the time being, but maybe sizing up a run, heading on to that start finish straight away. Look at the run, look at the momentum, and look at Aaron Sunday looking to blow Lisa Eskridge's metaphorical doors off.
And I think Eskridge has just said, well, you are faster, so I'll pull to the right-hand side and just let you go. It's probably best for both our races, although maybe not. She's given it a good go around the outside of turn 1. Quite though. Aaron Sunday will be through, and there you go, up to 16th place. That was just one overtake. How much effort more is going to be? Another 15 here. It's going to be very, very difficult indeed. Adam Holland is going to be next in line. Just 4 seconds up the road. There he is in the... crikey, what colour even is that? Yellow? Don't know. But anyway, he's 4 seconds up the road, maybe a bit further actually, maybe 6, 7 sort of seconds up the road actually from Aaron Sunday. It's going to be a long catch and then pass for him. And it's just about damage limitation. I think it's fair to say that it's going to be difficult for Sunday to get into 5th now, so or indeed ahead of 5th. So it's going to be effectively 83 points scored today for Aaron Sunday. For the likes of Wolf and Murphy and Stern, it's about getting into the top 5 and gaining some points. But actually for Sunday, it's about making sure that your drop round is still decent. Because if your drop round's decent, that limits the amount of points you can lose on the final day in Monza in 2 weeks' time.
And that's the thing when it comes to a series that has dropped you, and you got to do a little bit of math while you're driving the race car. And that, I honestly got to say, is just about my favorite form of racing, where you got that strategy to think about as well. You know, in a series like this, where the setups are fixed and these drivers are racing to their absolute limit of control around some really challenging racetracks, thinking about that strategy content as well in terms of when to push, what sort of math you got to do in your head to try and figure out what's the best place you need to put yourself in when it comes to your respective championship fights. That's my favorite kind of racing. I don't know about you, but that sort of added element to it always intrigues me, not only as a commentator, but as a fan of racing as well.
I love a championship fight. There's no secret about that. I'm always one of those people starting to talk about the standings after about round 2 and sort of getting a bit too overexcited about it. But anyway, thankfully we get towards the end of the season and we can really start to think about these things properly now. But unlike some other series, you can take your drop on the last round. So you can... Oh dear, who's that on the outside there? You can bank a decent score going into the last round, as Aaron Sunday was beginning to do, but unfortunately this round is making that more difficult. This is Aaron McGee into pit lane. That's going to give Sunday another position, by the way. Not sure how McGee found his way out there, but it's pretty easy to do through turns 8 and 9.
Yeah, going through that section, it feels like it continues on forever and ever and ever and ever and a day. Those left-hand side tires are absolutely scorching coming out of that. Even on the coldest of days on the iRacing platform, those tires are going to be in some pain coming out of that section. You're on the absolute limit of control, and in race cars like this, you can occasionally have moments like this happen. Riding on board and take a look at this replay of McGee just overshooting it, heading into that final corner and taking a wild trip through the grass, some lawn mowing in the process. Ooh, that was a very precarious situation for him to find himself in. Understandably gassing it to have just as much separation between himself and the racing line as he possibly could, because just being a foot away from the corner exit, the exit curve out of the fastest corner around this racetrack, that's a terrifying moment, to be sure.
It is, yeah. I think part of the dart to the left, by the way, was him losing traction on the dirt or sand or whatever it is on the outside there. It's very, very ungrippy, I think is the word. Britt Danley goes through on Manuel Gonçalves. Meanwhile, Alan Hales is at the front of this group, though, in the sort of 2017 style standard Porsche livery. or whatever year it was, with the white, red and black. Jeffrey Block looking for a way through into ninth as well here, by the way, in this pretty populated part of the order, actually, from 7th place on backwards. Ed Trippett at the head of this, but Johan Nye and Jeffrey Block are certainly the closest of them. Certainly not going to miss Jeffrey Block coming anytime soon in the red, blue and green. Very distinctive livery indeed, but we like those for identification purposes. So he's currently running in 10th place, and then you've got Alan Hales not too far behind, but lap traffic in the meantime between them. There is Hales just ahead of Pit Danley, of course recovering from a couple of spins himself in this race, and there's plenty of drivers like that in the first 22 minutes of this one.
Yeah, it feels like this race has just about flown by. 22 minutes on the board thus far. I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened towards the very beginning of this race, as we see a wild off-track excursion there a couple of moments ago. There you can see the race car that just had the rallycross line heading out of the final corner. That's Alan Hales. He's going off the circuit, trying to rejoin it right now as best as he possibly can. That was another wild ride coming out of the final corner. Another challenging corner around this racetrack as well. You know, trying to figure out what corner is challenging around this racetrack. It's pretty impossible. It's like trying to pick what bottle of water you want to drink for a broadcast. It's just there's no picking one, because every single one is just as challenging as the other. And that's part of the reason why we've seen so many drivers try and grapple with the conditions around this racetrack. And one thing that I don't think we've mentioned thus far is the bumps around here as well, as we see some side-by-side fighting here involving McGee and Olin Murphy. That looks like a pretty slick move there. That, I believe, actually was at Murphy and Douglas heading through turn number 5. Either way, Olin Murphy currently running in 20th as it stands at the moment, but all of these racers having to deal with the bumps. You know, we mentioned how this track has such an old school feel and such an old school flavor to it. When it comes to old school feeling racetracks, though, you throw in quite a lot of bumps there, and you got a track kind of like Sebring in a way, where it feels like you're driving over a sinking swamp, but it's still a wonderful ride in the world of racing. But the bumps seeming to affect some of these drivers as well.
That was Andy McCune, by the way, that Olin Murphy overtook for 20th place. They are a lap down, though. Murphy has made a stop already, but it was quite long, and probably about twice as long as it should have been. And that's going to really hold him back through the remainder of this race. I would imagine it could be a bit of a points loss for him today, which would maybe take him out of championship contention. It's certainly looking like Will Wolf is the most realistic candidate to take it off Aaron Sunday at the moment, but he's still going to be 25 points behind going into the final race as things stand. There are the position gains on the left-hand side. 7 from Anthony DiVincenzo is the most inside the top 10, but if you go a bit further down, Adam Holland has made up 10 so far after qualifying in 23rd. He is now in 13th place, just about holding on from, or just about catching up to Manuel Gonçalves, I should say, for 12th place. So we may well go back to have a look at that a little bit later on, but for now they are a second or so apart. Ed Trippett is leading this group for 7th place, ahead of Robert Gallis, then Johan Nye, then it's Jeffrey Block. 4 drivers for 7th place here as we approach half distance in this race.
You got a little bit of a hornet's nest forming between these racers. They're not vacuum sealed together for the time being. However, we can still get all of them within a couple of camera shots around this very pretty racetrack as well. Pretty in its own regard, but we may see some pretty awesome racing with all these drivers. That was a terrible segue. I apologize for that, gentlemen. But looking now at a replay of another off-track moment for Olin Murphy. You can see that wild ride. Holy cow, he nearly ended up in San Francisco, how far away he left the racetrack. That was just about as far of an off-track we've seen thus far tonight.
That was a long way off, but as we've been talking about it many times in these round of broadcasts, you can find yourself generally quite a long way off the circuit, and so that's a bit of a problem, really. Holland, as I just mentioned, was catching up to Manuel Gonçalves. Well, he's actually done it now. He's up 11 already in this race, and that's a very impressive return indeed for him. Now Gonçalves will be looking behind him and waiting for those behind him. That's Olin Murphy trying to overtake him next, although he's a lap down. After that, it will be Aaron Sunday, and there is Sunday in the light blue and white just in the background here. Important passes that need to be made for Aaron Sunday, and he is working his way through the field. As I just saw someone off the road there, Andy McCune, by the looks of things, had just pulled off to the right-hand side there out of turn number 6. Round the right-hander they go. That looked very deep into the... And there is why McCune was off on the right-hand side. So there you go, another driver finding the dirt off the side of the circuit as this battle for 7th place also continues. Gallus just ahead of Johan 9, holding on to 8th place there.
That was going to be some pretty close stuff if they decide to go side by side, hang through turn number 2. Take a look at a replay of another wild ride going off the track and finding the barriers. Manuel Goncalves, he nearly flipped it to that odd angle with that concrete barrier on the outside. Looks like he navigates it back to pit lane. Probably some pretty heavy damage on that 502 car. That's the most wild ride we've seen off the racetrack thus far tonight. But these drivers may be going to give us a fight to keep our eyes on. Here's another replay, this time running on board with Manuel Goncalves here, and you can see hitting the bumps there, and oh my god, the off-track excursions that we've seen from some of these racers. I'm not sure about you, but it's looking like some of these Porsche Cup cars seem more like a rallycross car with the amount of jumps and hops they've had to deal with.
Yeah, you can go a long way off here at Willow Springs, that's for sure, before you find a wall, but Goncalves actually found one there on the outside line, so fair play for that. Gando Ayers, meanwhile, and Brian Stern go to battle here for 2nd place. Brian Stern started the day at 44 points behind Aaron Sunday. He does need to gain some of those back again, and at the moment he is only gaining 7 in the race. There's Britt Danley off the road through the final corner as well. Good speed for Danley today, but I'm afraid a few mistakes has dropped Danley right the way down to 14th place, and indeed cutting his losses by making a pit stop now after making a spin, which is probably the smart thing to do if you have had an incident through the final corner.
Yeah, that is probably a very smart call to make. That last corner, that usually ends in some sort of major disaster if you even miss the apex by about a foot. So that's a section where any small little trip up can end in a total heartbreak. But looking now at the live action and is trying to see as to whether or not this pack is actually going to form into 4 or whether or not it's definitely broken up into a 2 and 2. I think it's broken up into a 2 and 2 as we see Jeffrey Block and the move done on Johan Nye heading off into turn number 8. That was slick from Jeffrey Block to slip his way up into the 9th place position. That 389 car getting a monster run coming out of turn number 5, and it looks like he got that move done. Just saw Nye go off the track and again deja vus. We see a side-by-side fight continuing here for 7th.
Yeah, Gallows getting down the inside of Ed Trippett, who goes around the outside of turn 1 and holds on. And so Jeffrey Block will close in as well. Gallows will just hold the middle of the road to try and stop Block's progress. Just lifts a line off the very inside there through turn 2, looking for a late apex here and maybe a dive at turn 3. It's a pretty popular move. Oh, he's trying a bit too hard though, I'm afraid. It's always the problem around here at Willow Springs. I mean, it's all well and good having, run off on a normal modern circuit. You can get away with that kind of thing. You certainly can't get away with it round here.
Oh yeah, you cannot get away with anything around this racetrack. It is so unforgiving for these racers. We've seen that pop up a lot throughout the first half. Slowly but surely approaching the second half. Only 20 seconds left to go until we officially hit the halfway mark of this 1 hour long race, which has been chock full of action thus far, and the action definitely continuing here as we may see a side-by-side fight develop here in the not too distant future between Randall Ayers, who I mentioned earlier on the show, is off the back of a victory at the last race of this season for these racers at Bathurst. He's now going to be battling hard with Brian Stern, who, as you've mentioned a lot throughout this broadcast, Ewan, he's looking to try and prove himself as a driver to keep our eyes on in the championship fight. Probably not for the championship lead, but for some of the positions in the podium spots in terms of the championship. So Brian Stern, a driver who we're definitely keeping our eyes on at the moment, running in a podium spot in 3rd and maybe going to get a move done in the not too distant future to slip his way up into 2nd.
If we're going to accept that 2nd might be his limit in this race, then he needs Aaron Sunday to finish outside the top 10, which I think is looking a little bit unlikely at the moment, considering he's already 11th in his recovery with just less than half an hour to go. But we will see for Brian Stern. We are just indeed over the halfway mark, so time to remind you about Player Vista Insurance Services sponsoring this series, of course. They're more than just an insurance firm. They're a full-service employee benefits consulting partner, delivering innovative solutions in wellness, compliance and technology with 25 years of trusted experience and a legacy spanning everything from nursing to hospital administration. They're dedicated to designing benefits that are as unique as your business. Contact them today to build a brighter, healthier future. At just less than 29 minutes to go, we go back to the battle for 7th place as Ed Trippett goes a little bit wide there, a little bit slow at the final corner. Robert Gallus gets close in the way towards turn 1. He's a bit damaged on the front right, you can see there as well, but that doesn't stop him having a look down the inside. Not quite decisive enough though really there to make a move, although he just looked pretty quick and maybe even quicker than Trippett, just can't find his way through yet.
Yeah, Trippett seemingly holding strong at the moment, maybe driving the widest Porsche Cup car on the planet, but he's put on a defensive masterclass as it stands, currently holding off the challenges from Gallus. However, I'm curious as whether or not that will be something that sticks around between now and the end of this race. And I'll ask you this here question for you. Do you think Trippett has a really good shot of holding on to that P7 spot, or do you think it's a do you think it's a battle that he may end up losing? I mean, he's been putting on a pretty good defensive drive thus far, but eventually Gallus may try and see through some of the moves that Trippett has pulled off thus far. What do you think about this fight with these two?
Yeah, I think Gallus is a bit quicker, and eventually he will get through, but let's see whether he even bothers doing it on the circuit. We are very much in the window now, being over halfway for them to be making their pit stop, and that's what Brian Stern has decided in the battle for second. Instead of overtaking Randall Ayers, I'm going to try and go past him in the pit stops. The problem always with that, we were talking about this last night, is that if you pit too early, especially as one of the leaders, you can find yourself in a lot of traffic. Now, it worked all right for Rex Jariwala yesterday because he finished second after all, but I think he would have finished second whether he pitted early or not. Let's see where Brian Stern comes out though. He is in 10th and his gap is about 4 seconds up ahead, but look at what is ahead. The battle for what is now 6th place, headed by Ed Trippett, just as we were watching. That could be in Brian Stern's way in a few laps' time.
I will say that one thing that may end up benefiting Brian Stern is the fact, well, I'm not sure actually whether it would benefit him or hurt him, is the fact that this back has broken up a teeny tiny bit. We saw these 4 cars more or less vacuum sealed together not terribly long ago. It's now starting to break up a little bit. There's about I'm trying to do the quick math in my head, about 8/10 of a second, my apologies, between Trippett and Gallus. You can tell I was great in math as a kid in school, but those two are separated by about 8/10 of a second as it stands at the moment. Then you have to go back about a half a second to Jeffrey Block, and then from Block to Johan Nye you have to go back nearly 2 whole seconds. So despite the fact these 4 were covered by barely any air not terribly long ago, it feels like the momentum has definitely changed, as I thought we were going to see a move down pit lane for Gallus. However, it looks like he's just trying to block off any sort of run that Jeffrey Block may try on him. This is odd from Gallus. We were thinking that Ed Trippett was going to have to race his heart off to try and figure out any sort of way to hold on to that spot and withstand a challenge from Gallus. Now Gallus is falling into the crutches of Jeffrey Block for 8th, so this for 7th at the moment, Block running in 8th, so we may end up seeing a fight between these two of Gallus and Block before we see the fight reheat between Gallus and Trippett.
It is always very deceptive out the final corner when you see people either coming into the pit lane or not. Very difficult to tell sometimes, which hasn't caused any problems so far, and hopefully it doesn't in the challenge class either. With just over 25 minutes to go and most of the drivers still yet to have stopped. The first driver in the field to have stopped is Brian Stern, and very interesting actually, he's come out 8 seconds ahead of Aaron Sunday, who of course has made a drive-through penalty in this race but not a stop. Even if you take those seconds away though, Brian Stern would be behind Aaron Sunday. That suggests to me that maybe Sunday would have a chance at the top 2 if indeed he hadn't had that drive-through penalty, as Britt Danley again off the road here. Now down is 16th on a lap down. This is a real change in fortunes, and not in a good way, I'm afraid, for Danley, who has had a difficult race. And this is Adam Holland through turn 3. That is, well, the crowd, but most of all, that is Adam Holland going a bit wide through turn 3, braking a bit too late. Not the first time we've seen that today.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look at another angle of this from Holland, taking a wild ride off through turn number 3. Thankfully for him, not hitting those hills, which would just, that would be, it's kind of like hitting some speed bumps that he did not think were on a road. You hit them and it's just like, boom, and it feels like your spine has completely collapsed in on itself. So thankfully for Holland, not going to have that problem coming out of turn number 3. That's still going to be a not ideal ride and a loss of time. And speaking of a loss of time, Andy McCoon going for another spin. That's heading through turn number 5, which seems to be the real trouble spot with this race. We've seen a lot of drivers running into trouble heading through that section, which is oh so difficult. A little bit off camber, you're certainly heading downhill. That is possibly the toughest corner on this racetrack, as these drivers have proved.
Interesting you call it a hill, by the way. Joe called it a mountain yesterday, so there you go. I don't know what to make of it anymore. Britt Danley trying to come back through again on Jack Stevenson. Can't quite do it for 15th for now, but what a topsy-turvy race it's been for him. Great speed at times. Bad incidents at others, I'm afraid, for Danley, who's looking up the inside of turn 2. Oh, no, it's another incident, I'm afraid. He's going to be off the road again here, and yet he spins around. This time at turn 2, and everybody avoids him. Round the outside goes Ryan McGee as well as Jack Stevenson, and some of those on the lead lap as well. Don't forget Danley is off the lead lap. It's been a difficult race for Britt Danley, and that only underlines it further.
Yeah, it has been a tough affair for him thus far at Willow Springs, just rubbing salt into the wounds, heading through turn number 2. It's tough. In one of these races, it just feels like everything keeps piling on top of it all the time. Keeps happening to you. It feels like you get struck by falling anvil after falling anvil. Doesn't matter where the falling anvils go, as long as you're the one ending up with a dent in your head. So a tough break for him. Multiple incidents, such a shame. A lot of drivers dealing with the challenge around this racetrack. Some of them a bit more fortunate than others, as we may see the fight continue here. Looks like the gap is actually closed up between Trippett and Anthony DiVincenzo.
Yeah, this is DiVincenzo in the first battle for a while, and that's not him deciding he didn't want any part of it. That's a lap driver probably deciding for the best. Jack Stevenson there, who is a lap down. Here comes Brian Stern, and these are the problems that I was talking about earlier on. You'll find yourself in a load of traffic, and that's exactly what's happened now to Brian Stern. Round the outside of Johan Knight, that was all great. With less than 22 minutes to go, they may not be that close from a pit stop either. Really, 10 minutes I reckon they've still got in these tanks in terms of making their pit stop here. So Brian Stern could have to pass quite a few of these drivers, and that's not going to do him any favours in the battle with Randall Ayers.
Yeah, I think some of these drivers seeing the checkered flag in this race slowly but surely approach them in their windscreens. Now with less than 21 and a half minutes left to go, these drivers may be going to break out the chrome horn a little bit more, breaking their elbows. That going to start to get a bit more dicey between now and the checkered flag, as we see Jeremy Main make that run to come down pit lane. The 555 car have to talk about these pit stops, and these drivers limited to about 60% fuel capacity, so they do have to come into the pits. The real question is, how exactly do these drivers go about that? Are they going to try and stretch it out all the way up until they're running on fumes, or are they going to be maybe a bit more conservative in their approach to come down pit lane? Lots of drivers having wildly different answers to that pit stop question.
Jeremy Main's pit stop's going on quite a long time now. I hope he didn't speed, because this is very long now. He's taking tyres. What the hell is he doing that for? We saw at the start of the day that the track temperature is very cool. It's the start of December, and it's 9:15 in the morning, for goodness sake. I'm not sure why Jeremy Mains has decided to do that. Maybe it was in error. Maybe it was an accident.
Yeah, that's a very odd call for him to take tires. Maybe an off-track excursion. Maybe picked up one of those cacti that I mentioned at the very north end of the show. Don't think iRacing is that far along enough in their simulation, but at this point in time, these racers thinking of those pit stops, they're gonna have to do it at some point, as we see another off-track excursion. This, I believe, is very similar to what we saw with this driver earlier on. Did he ballpark it? No, he didn't, but he lawn darts it into that green outside concrete barrier. Another wild ride for the driver of the 502.
Crikey, that... oh my goodness me. That was quite an accident for good salvage. Shouldn't laugh, really. I apologise. But my goodness me, that was a big crash. Wow. Thank goodness this circuit isn't used for racing very much anymore in real life, because it's not the safest place I've ever seen, to be honest. It wasn't a penalty, by the way, for Jeremy Main. I do believe it was legitimately just the tyres that we saw him taking there, so that is a bizarre call. Robert Kalish, meanwhile, into pit lane from that group. That will help Brian Stern a bit, although he is still behind Jeffrey Block. There is Anthony DiVincenzo, who's got a bit of a gap behind him now, and he'll be quite pleased about that. That's the lap driver right behind him now, or right ahead of him, I should say. Oh, sorry, that's Ed Trippett. Apologies, I'm reading the order wrong. Ed Trippett's just ahead of him, but yes, they're not too far ahead of Brian Stern, who is side by side with Jeffrey Block in the background. Now Michael Courtney's in. He shouldn't be troubled with Stern. Oh, but Stern is go, and a spin there, very nearly for Jeffrey Block. He's certainly off into the dirt, and that's more time lost for Brian Stern, although he is now in sixth.
Yeah, that's going to be a position gain for him, but that was a quick little off-track excursion for Jeffrey Block, losing out some time as we see the leader of the race, Michael Courtney, making the run to come down pit lane. Will Wolf, who entered this race second in the championship, going to join him in the 16 car. Randall Ayers, who won the last race of the season at Bathurst, going to inherit the lead, but Will Courtney, the leader of the race, in dominating fashion as well, finding himself in an unusual spot compared to how he's been throughout most of this race, that being second.
Yeah, he's not leading, which you'll be pretty uncomfortable with, but it won't last long. At 15.8 seconds, he probably added a bit more fuel to his tank, to be honest, than he really needed, just to be on the safe side. He's not really racing anyone at this stage. He's so far in the lead, so he didn't really need all the fuel. As there's what happened to Jeffrey Block, just in the dirt, in the outside. Did a good job of keeping it going in the straight line, but crikey, went downhill there on the bank. Almost taking a sort of rallycross jump there back onto the circuit. Not ideal, but anyway, he's back on now. More pit stops happening in this group meanwhile, as they make their way back out on the circuit again. Ed Trippett quite a long way ahead of Jeffrey Block, who we follow here, making his way back out again.
Yeah, looking like drivers having these off-track excursions or coming down pit lane and just being able to rejoin the racetrack, getting back on that horse, so to speak. You know, we're in ranch country in California, so kind of fitting to mention getting back on the horse and just trying to trot along throughout the rest of this race. Gotta say, not a whole lot of time left on the clock. Only 17 minutes left to go for these racers. These hour-long races can flash by in the blink of an eye, and right as it felt like not terribly long ago that we still had about 45 minutes left on the clock. We're now coming up to the point where we have less than 17. So these racers slowly seeing that checkered flag approach, as we just saw. I think that may have been a move around the outside through turn number 1 from Anthony DiVincenzo. And if that was a very well executed move from the driver of the 420 car.
Yeah, very, very nicely done. But I think Brian Stern would really rather he just got out of the way. Of course, he's under no obligation to. DiVincenzo, he's in this race legitimately. He hasn't stopped yet, of course, but they are legitimately fighting for third place. And this is the real risk of, in my opinion, of doing the strategy that Brian Stern is doing here. He is now gaining time on Randall Ayers because he's coming into the pit lane in the number 67. So this is the moment of truth now for Brian Stern. Has all this traffic stalled him, or has his ploy to get out of the traffic of Randall Ayers worked instead? Let's see here as they make their way to the final corner now. Stern might want to be careful of DiVincenzo breaking out this final corner and making his way into pit lane. We ride on board with him here to see if he is going to be any careful of that, or whether he will just do his normal line anyway. Through the final corner, they both try and clip the apex. Nicely done. DiVincenzo does indeed come in, and there you go. You see Stern just skipping to the right hand side. Here comes Randall Ayers out the pit lane. He exits the pit lane now. He's still ahead. Would he have still been ahead anyway? I'm not entirely sure. Oh no, he's not. Oh, he's getting up to speed, and Brian Stern does get through despite all that traffic. He's still in second place.
That was brilliantly executed from Brian Stern. He didn't have to gain a whole lot of time. As long as he got that spot, that's all that mattered. But that was a fraction of a second between those two cars when they decided to come out of pit lane. That was incredibly close with Brian Stern and Randall Ayers, but it looks like Stern is going to be the one victorious in that battle. There's still about 15 seconds back on Michael Courtney, so this is a battle up towards the front that we're going to be keeping our eyes on, to be sure, throughout the final 15 minutes of this race. But Stern, if he lost out on even like another 0.02 of a second, that would have been a completely different story heading off into turn number 1. And I'm not sure how it would have ended with a side-by-side fight involving Brian Stern, the number 18 car, on those hot tires versus Randall Ayers making that run out of pit lane, taking the shallow line all through 1. I feel like if Brian Stern just lost out on a bit more time, that could have ended in disaster for the both of them.
Well, if Brian Stern does finish in second place, as things stand, he would be still involved in the championship fight going into Monza. 32 points he'd be behind Aaron Nations, with a possible ability to gain 35 in one day. Johan Nye now comes into the pit lane. That won't give Sunday another position, but Lisa Eskridge coming in in Will. So that will put Sunday in 11th, which is what I've accounted for at the moment. He's 8 seconds behind Trippett, Gallis, Block, and soon to be Johan Nye as well. So that's the battle he can hope to catch in the last 14 minutes. If not, then Will Wolf will gain some time on him. Just 3 points though, and so the gap will be 22 going into the final race. And Ola Murphy, I'm afraid, a long way down, indeed, out of this race, probably out of the championship running as well. Looks like we might be down to 3 as we go over the line with Gallis and Trippett. This for 8th place now. Robert Gallis looks like he's finally got himself through here.
And look at Jeffrey Block in tow as well. He's not involved in this fight just yet, but he is within striking distance to the back of Ed Trippett's race car. Riding on board now with Jeffrey Block in that 389 car. Let's see, is he gonna go for a move heading off into turn number 3? Not close enough for the time being. However, I don't know about you, Ian, but I have a good feeling about Jeffrey Block. I'm not sure if he will be able to get a move done on the both of them, but I think he's certainly going to be a thorn in this side for Robert Gallis and Ed Trippett.
This could be one of the battles that we're really focused on towards the end here. Vincenzo not anymore. He's got himself away. Oh, right. Randall Ayers has gone very... that's not Gonsalves in the wall again, is it? in the bottom again. Shouldn't laugh, sorry. But Randall Ayers, they're going very wide there. And is now going to have a job to even hold on to third. No, it was Britt Danley, another driver who struggled a bit today. Locks everything up to try and avoid the wall. Was he successful? Sort of, but now he's up the bank. And that was Ayers going through that shot as well. It's a very long way to the wall, as we know, as this Edgecridge comes into pit lane. That puts Aaron Sunday in now 11th place.
I feel like the fact that it feels like 14 miles before you hit any barriers around this racetrack may be part of the reason why it's still used to this very day. It's seen some odd uses over the years, to be sure. A little fun fact to share as we're at this point of the race, still seeing this battle heat up involving these 3 racers of Gallis, Trippett, and Block. Willow Springs many moons ago actually hosted the first ever NASCAR race in Southern California, so that's a nice little fun fact for you right there. That's an odd racetrack in the world of motorsports, still functional to this very day, and in the world of iRacing was only introduced a couple of seasons ago, which is quite odd because I think it was meant to be released all the way back in 2013, but that's a whole nother story. But these racers still trying to get a grips to this racetrack, still trying to get a grips maybe to their cars and the way they're driving, considering some of these drivers have just come out of the pits either this past lap or a couple of laps ago, and all of these racers that we have on board with their camera shot right now, they're trying to get some moves done on each other. Look at Jeffrey Block coming in for the move. That was unexpected if ever I saw one. He came in out of nowhere, but it looks like he's gonna get the move done for the time being on Ed Trippett. Where did he come from?
That was incredible through the final corner. Jeffrey Block through into 8th place ahead of Ed Trippett now, who's gone from the front of the group now to 3rd in the group, if we can call it a 4-driver group. Johan Nye is a 2.5 behind, of course, but Robert Gallis and Jeffrey Block both now through into 7th and 8th positions. Fantastic pass, particularly from Block. I mean, that corner itself is difficult on its own. To come from that far back and still make the corner, not make contact with the driver you're alongside with, that's incredible from Jeffrey Block.
Yeah, I was looking at that action and I saw that. I was like, I don't know whether my eyes are deceiving me or what. I was thinking that I may need to take a very closer look at my sleep schedule, but that was insane. As we see Will Wolf go off the track coming out of the final corner, that's going to be a lapped car getting by him. So Will Wolf having an off-track excursion, running in the 4th position as it stands at the moment. Looks like it's going to be no real harm done as a result of that. I'm not sure if he lost out on a spot, as Randall Ayers, after that off-track excursion, is about 11 seconds farther up the road, as we're going to take a look at a replay to see an off-track moment involving Britt Danley in the 86 car going off for a spin into the dirt. But I'm curious, what exactly happened to Will Wolf? Not sure if it lost him out on a lot of time, but considering he entered this race 2nd in the championship, that's going to sting a little bit.
Runs wide through the final corner. That's cost him a chance at 3rd. I believe he could have had a chance if he'd have really got his act together late on there. That would have been another 4 points to his name. Possibly a better situation going into Monza, but at the moment he's drop down and probably going to finish in 4th place. That would leave Aaron Sunday requiring a 6th place finish next week, or at the week after I should say, at Monza to win the championship. Of course, he's finishing down 11th at the moment, so anything is possible in 2 weeks' time. For one final time in this race with just 9 minutes remaining, time to remind you about Play Vista Insurance Services, because they're more than just an insurance firm. They're a full-service employee benefits consulting partner, delivering innovative solutions in wellness, compliance and technology, with 25 years of trusted experience and a legacy spanning everything from nursing to hospital administration. They're dedicated to designing benefits that are as unique as your business. Contact them today to build a brighter, healthier future. 8.5 minutes remaining here in this one, and the battle for 7th is probably going to be one of our primary focuses. After what we've just seen from Jeffrey Block in the final corner not so long ago, feels like anything's possible here as he tries to pass Robert Gallis.
Yeah, you can't rule anything out for these racers. We've seen a whole lot of twists and turns thus far in this race, and we're not just talking about the ones that the drivers have had to negotiate behind the wheel of their respective race cars. There's been a lot of topsy-turviness all throughout. We may see another move here from Jeffrey Block. That was a very bad run coming out of turn number 2 for Robert Gallis, missing the apex through turn number 3 as well, I believe. Not sure if the driver of the 809 car is feeling entirely confident in the way his race car is running at this point. Looks like he's lost out on a decent amount of time over the past few corners. That or he's maybe backing Jeffrey Block into the path of Ed Trippett, but looking at Block, he's got fantastic run coming out turn number 5, heading down the hill, then back up the hill, about to head through 8 and 9 on this lap, and Jeffrey Block going to get that move done to slip his way up into 7th.
Good pass, and an important pass as well for Jeffrey Block. Looked like he was going to run straight into the back of Robert Gallis on the back straight there, but anyway, he put it. Is that Jeremy Mainoff in the background? Is that someone else? It's not Main. Someone else in light yellow. It's Andy McCune, who's already a couple of laps down, and oh, don't tell me he's found the wall as well. He has. Oh, he's avoided it because of the weird way the wall is sort of almost put into the ground there in a slightly odd fashion. So anyway, he's stopped on the outside, waiting to rejoin safely, and did so a few moments later, which is good to see. Meanwhile, in the background of this shot, by the way, Aaron Sunday is catching these guys 4 seconds behind Johan Knight. I just wonder with 6.5 minutes to go whether he's going to run out of time.
Ooh, that's a very good question that he raised there, you. And I gotta say, at this point in the race, with how spread out the field is, I feel like most of the running order that we have at the moment maybe gonna stay the same between now and the checkered flag. I say that knowing fully well that these drivers are very much so going to attempt to prove me wrong and put on some fantastic battles between now and the checkered flag. But I just have a sneaking suspicion, a hunch, if you would, that how spread out this field is at the moment, with well over 50 minutes of racing action in these drivers' rearview mirrors. Gotta think that the running order that we have at the moment, for lack of a better term, and with most of the field taken into consideration, it's probably going to stay the same between now and the checkered flag.
A top 10 would put Brian Stern out of championship contention, by the way, and leave it to a 2-horse race in 2 weeks' time between he and Will Wolf, who is currently in 4th place, gaining 3 points on him this afternoon. So Sunday really might want to get this 10th place just for that bit of a safety buffer going into the last round at Monza, really, as we follow this battle here. And what's helping him, I suppose, is that this is a battle for 8th place. Jeffrey Block has got through on these guys and he's away. That seems over with now. But Robert Gallis is trying to defend from Ed Trippett and Johan Knight in one go.
Oh!
He's not Ed Trippett anymore, though. Trippett goes for a spin. That's going to see Sunday into the top 10. And that is going to see Brian Stern's championship charge come to an end, very likely.
And what an odd way for it to happen for Brian Stern. Nothing of his own doing. That was entirely out of his control. And speaking of out of control, it was Ed Trippett losing control of his race car, hit the curb on the inside turn number 3, and just takes a one-way trip for a spin off the racetrack. Those curbs around this racetrack, you don't see them too often, but whenever you see them and whenever you hit them in all sorts of race cars, they're gonna sting. And we just saw that sting. That's gonna be such a shame for Trippett. He was putting together a really good race in that 4 car, but things going to fall apart in the dying stages, as we nearly just saw a side-by-side fight involving Douglas and Adam Holland heading off into turn number 1 a couple of moments ago.
In case you're wondering what Sunday needs to do to clinch it today, he needs to finish in 6th place. And though he is only 10 seconds behind 6th, but it is feeling unlikely, to be honest, with just over 4 minutes to go, that could really happen. We've got back to 15th place, where Dave Douglas is trying to hang on from Adam Holland. This is the battle for the lowest position in the field, or the lowest battle, if you like, in terms of position in the field. Just up ahead of them is Lisa Eskridge versus Ryan McGee, and also that battle we've been following for most of the race as well. So there's still plenty going on here. As you mentioned earlier on, there's been a lot going on throughout this race indeed. It's gone by very quickly indeed. There is Ryan McGee going past Lisa Eskridge in towards turn 1.
Yeah, it looks like those two going to be line of stern now, heading off through turn number 2. So a pretty slick move, it must be said, from McGee to make up another position. You just brought up a very good point, though, man. The fact that this race, it hasn't felt like it's been an hour long, for the simple sake that we've had so many compelling storylines to keep our eyes on all throughout the race. The trouble that Aaron Sunday ran into early on, putting on a really rousing recovery drive in the first 10 minutes, starting up towards the front, then dropping back, then getting back up into 8th where he started, and then immediately getting hit with the penalty. A commentator's jinx, whatever you want to call it. It hit Aaron Sunday hard, had to come down pit lane, serve that drive-through penalty, but ever since then, he's proved that patience, I mentioned it right before we grabbed the green about an hour ago at this point now, the fact that patience was going to be such a factor in deciding who was going to do well in this race, trying to get as many points as you can and trying to grab the victory. Just remaining patient was the goal for Aaron Sunday, and it looks like he's going to do it. It's not going to be his best result from this season. I believe it's actually going to be his worst, but in terms of how things could have gone, it could have been a whole lot crummier for the driver of the 331 car. He's not going to be overly excited about how things worked out here at Willow Springs, but I think it's exactly what he really needed in that championship fight. Not going to seal tonight, but he still finds himself in a really good spot heading into the season finale.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he'll have 22 points as things stand going into the last round. That's Aubrey Ayer going off. He's the last running driver, by the way, in the field with 2 minutes to go. Yeah, going into the last round, that would mean a 6th place would seal it for Aaron Sunday, and that would be he would see, I guess, a pretty achievable target, considering he's not finished lower than that all season long. In fact, he's not finished lower than 5th place when he was there at Summit Point. Only today, of course, he is going to finish in 10th, so lower indeed in his worst result of the season. This is Michael Courtney. Worth mentioning him again, to be honest. We haven't spoken about him very much today, but that's because he's been out on his own for most of this race, and with less than a minute and a half to go, looks like he's just bringing it home for a very impressive victory indeed.
Yeah, at this point, he is cruising in his Porsche. A 10-second gap, a 10.5 second, 11 second, whatever you want to call it. I feel like it changes every single corner he goes around. But Michael Courtney has been the dominant force all throughout this race. Started up towards the front. He's been running up towards the front all throughout this race. The only time he lost the lead was through pit stops, and that's about it. He is entirely checked out from this field. May have joked about earlier on the broadcast the fact he had enough time to maybe take a quick trip to San Diego. Really not the case, but you know, he's just been very quick all throughout this race and maintaining that patience as well. May be able to have a chat with him possibly once this broadcast is being wrapped up, but the fact that he's been up towards the front all throughout this race, I feel like the main thing that's going to bring him possibly to a checker flag and to a win from this series is going to be playing that patient game, not losing your cool around this racetrack. The temperatures aren't hot, but you can certainly feel the burn around this racetrack, but Michael Courtney has been just about flawless throughout.
Yeah, he certainly has. Only joined us for Donington Park at round 3. Missed the opening 2 rounds and hasn't actually been on the podium yet. But Michael Courtney is certainly going to manage that now, and he's going to be on the top step of this podium in a few moments' time. The seconds are ticking by. The white flag is already waving. And now time has elapsed. We are officially on the final lap of this race in the Porsche Cup of America Challenge class. Round 6 from Willow Springs. A race of complete domination from Michael Courtney. The only laps he didn't lead were during the pit stop cycle when Randall Ayers decided to run long and Michael Courtney just pitted in a few laps beforehand. Other than that, he's completely dominated, and most of these laps have been led by considerable margins over the rest of the field as well. The winning margin into double figures over Brian Stern. It's going to be Michael Courtney's day in California. Out of the final corner, he wins in the Porsche Club of America Challenge class here this afternoon. The checkered flag waves. Michael Courtney, a race winner in dominant fashion here this evening.
Absolutely incredible stuff from the driver, the number 12 car. The driver from the Redwood region, I believe that is California, and he was certainly California dreaming from start to finish. That was a drive of dreams from the driver, the number 12 car. Brilliant stuff from start to finish. Didn't really put a foot wrong all throughout the race either, Ian. He was just fantastic from start to finish, keeping it clean, keeping it smooth, keeping it calm, and keeping it collected as well. And when everything is said and done, he's got to collect a checkered flag.
And checkered flag waving for absolutely everybody here. I don't know what's so congested here. All of a sudden, this is down in 8th place in the battle, but there's plenty of lap drivers as well here. Look at Aaron Sunday trying to get past Robert Gallis right at the very end here. He is in the black and yellow, is Gallis, and then it's Sunday in the light blue and white. And look at all this slowing up in front. What is going on here? Through the final corner, Gallis defending through the final corner. That was very close into the actual final turn. They go, and Sunday can't quite get it. Not sure why there was so much traffic there, to be honest with you, but anyway, it certainly made things interesting at the end there. And they eventually finished where they started the last lap, but goodness me, that was very congested. Not really sure why at the very end either. But anyway, I think Dave Douglas and Adam Holland were just up ahead, by the way, having a very close finish between themselves as well. So there you have it. Round 6 complete here from Willow Springs in the Porsche Club of America Challenge class. Just one more thing before we get to the results. Of course, a reminder that Charlie Mobile is sponsoring the Series 12 Clean Driver Award. Charlie Mobile is providing the winner with an Apple iPhone 16 and a year of self-service. Thank you to Charlie Mobile for sponsoring the Series 12 Clean Driver Award. Let's have a look at the results at the end of racing. 47 laps here at Willow Springs. It's Michael Courtney who takes the win by 10 seconds ahead of Brian Stern, with Randall Elias third. Will Walsh makes some progress in the championship by finishing fourth, with Jeremy Main rounding out the top 5. Anthony DiVincenzo finishes sixth, but Jeffrey Block, who held off Johan Knight, Robert Gallis and Aaron Sunday in a very close finish at the end. Sunday still in the lead with that top 10. Ed Trippett, Alan Hales, Ryan McGee, Lisa Eskridge, Dave Douglas and Adam Holland were all one lap down. Jack Stevenson, Manuel Gonzalez and Jim Garamani were all 2 down, with Britt Daly 3 down. Annie McKeon 5 down, Norbury IF 7 down. They all got to the end. Ola Murphy and Joshua Jefferson didn't, and Antonio De Silva never started the race. Brian Courtney's not quite ready to join us yet by the looks of things. He's there now. Good timing. Let's bring him in for a chat at the end of the race. Mike, welcome in. Congratulations on the win. 10 seconds, a fairly comfortable margin in the end as well. You seem to be extremely comfortable around this circuit. Is there any sort of reason you think for that? Do you like this circuit particularly? I'm sorry, Mike. I don't think we can hear you at the moment. I can see your mic open, but we're all just checking with each other where it was just me. No, I can't hear you for some reason at the moment. We can't hear you, even though I can see your mic is open. So I really don't know how to fix that. but anyway, we'll give it another go. We'll give it another go in a few moments' time, Mike. If you can still hear me, we'll try and sort the issue out, and we will get back to you later on if possible. A bit awkward. Let's go instead to second place, where Brian Stern has finished, and chat to him and see if we have any more luck with him. Welcome in, Brian. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on finishing second here tonight. Tell us a little bit about your race and how you felt out there.
Thanks. Yeah, I didn't qualify as well as I wanted to. I really thought I had a sub 116 in me, but got lucky, I guess, with that early incident and got out of there clean. And then that undercut paid off, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with how it went.
You're now third in the standings. You've moved on up, but unfortunately it's mathematically impossible now, as rather average calculations go, for you to win the championship. How do you reflect on this season so far? We're still one round to go, of course, and what are you hoping for from the final round at Monza?
I'm absolutely livid. No, I'm just kidding. It's been a great season. And yeah, no, Monza should be fun. I got to put some time in there, and hopefully I can, repeat a podium.
Absolutely. Got a couple of weeks to prepare. Congratulations on second tonight at Willow Springs, though, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Brian Stern there, second place tonight here at Willow Springs. We'll leave Mike Courtney for the moment. I'll just check with him whether his mic's working. But in the meantime, let's chat to Randall Ayers as well, who finished in third place. Randall, welcome in, and good to have you with us as well. Third place in the end, an off-track excursion preventing you from challenging Brian Stern really in that final stint of the race. But how are you feeling having finished in third tonight?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Yeah, Brian, I think Brian, I didn't have much for him. He ran me down a couple of times, or pitted early to get around me. I thought I'd try and pressure him a little bit and totally blew my braking point, followed another car off the track. Fortunately, it wasn't too bad, and I was able to get back on, but I lost 7 or 8 seconds there.
How do you reflect on the what the season has been so far for you? 7th place coming in to the points here tonight, but you will have moved up a couple of places, maybe even into the top 5 by the end of tonight. How are you reflecting on this season so far and thinking about Monza in 2 weeks' time as well?
Yeah, I've had a couple of bad luck races, created some bad luck of my own, and it's no one to blame for that one. So, no, I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling good going into Monza. I like Monza. It's a fun track for me. After last week's win at Bathurst, I've got some confidence. So, yay.
Absolutely. We look forward to it in a couple of weeks. Congratulations, Randall, on the podium tonight, and thanks for chatting to us as well.
Thanks, you guys. Keep up the good work.
Thanks very much. Randall Ayers, the third place driver from tonight. Let's try Mike Courtney again, who indeed is the race winner tonight from Willow Springs. Good evening, Mike. Can you hear us, and can we hear you?
I got you. Can you hear me now?
We can, yes. Excellent. I'll just ask you what I did before then. In that case, you seem very, very comfortable around here. Is there any particular reason for that? Do you like Willow Springs?
Well, I do like Willow Springs. I wish it had a brake marker or two. It's a lot of fun. I've driven there in real life, and it's been a while, but it's like a big giant skid pad for me. That track helped me get the car underneath me and figure out how to drive a little better. So, and the instructor coaches in the EDE groups, they're awesome. Shout out to them and our sponsors that broadcast, help you pay for you guys to be on. It's wonderful. I can't wait to go watch YouTube.
It was great to watch you out there as well today. I mean, what was the things you sort of picked up from that in terms of taking forward into today? Because there were a lot of drivers who really weren't very comfortable with taking this car around this circuit.
Yeah, I tend to overdrive. So this is my first win. It's like my 4th race. I'm starting to figure it out. It's again, shout out to the instructors for helping me out.
Well, congratulations on taking the win here tonight in the challenge class, and thanks for coming to chat to us as well.
Absolutely, you guys are great. Thanks for doing what you do.
Thanks very much. Mike Courtney there, the winner tonight here at Willow Springs. Well, Ron, that was a good hour of racing, I've got to say, here in the Porsche Club of America challenge class. Flew by. And Michael Courtney in the end, a deserving winner by some distance in the end.
Oh, yeah, it was a lot of distance between himself and his competitors. He was just in a class of one all throughout this race. A race which was brilliant from start to finish. Had a couple of incidents here and there. Lots of stuff to keep our eyes on from start to finish. Some brilliant storylines to always keep tabs on throughout the 1 hour of racing action that we just had. Never really had a dull moment. You usually think, okay, 1 hour around a racetrack like this may have some dull moments. Didn't have that at all. And that really speaks about the kind of racing action that you expect from the Porsche Club of America series, as well as all the stuff here on RaceSpots. So brilliant stuff from start to finish. Really happy to be a part of this broadcast, and really happy to be able to call that racing action, because believe me, the action was there in spades.
Absolutely, and a big thanks to everyone, of course, for watching here this evening. This has been the Porsche Club America Racing Series 12 from Willow Springs, the Challenge class. We'll be back next week, of course, with the Pro class, first of all, on Wednesday night. Join us from 9 p.m. Eastern for that broadcast. But from myself, Ian O'Leary, Ron Mounds, and Hugo Louise behind the cameras, it's goodbye from Willow Springs, and we'll see you next week in Monza.